and welcome to this episode of The Get-In. A few weeks ago, we had the pleasure of hosting a creative conference with 20 industry speakers from all sorts of jobs, ranging from actors to writers to directors to lighting designers, set designers, everything. And they shared key insights and tips on how to get into the industry, how to do their jobs, what comes up, and general tips for managing that work-life balance. And one of the topics that came up was actor training. How do aspiring actors get into the industry? And we looked at the formal route of drama schools. We looked at the entrepreneurial self-made route of doing it yourself. And I thought today we'd expand on that discussion, looking at the highs and lows of both approaches. And that's why I'm joined by the beloved Zak Douglas.
How's it going? We okay?
How you doing, mate?
Yeah, all good.
So we both spoke at the conference. How did you find it?
No, I loved it. It's good. A big reason why I do what I do is to do the work and go off and act and be creative and do that stuff, but also bring it back and be able to give back to people from similar backgrounds to myself, especially from our city. So it's good to do something in our city, focused on the people that have come from our city. So it was really nice. Yeah, I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, I know we were chatting about it a bit earlier, and I left feeling quite optimistic because we spoke, didn't we? There's so many drama clubs, youth theatres, places where you can practice the skill of acting, but there's not many places where you actually get to learn about the business side of it, and that ends up being the kind of predominant thing a lot of the time when you're a professional. So
I think nationally that there's a shortage of people that are willing to break down the complexities of the business, because it isn't just you go there and do it. There's different roles that people aren't even aware of, and then it's going, how do you interact with these people in these roles? What do they expect from you? What do you have to bring to that side of the industry? And no one really talks about that and teaches that. And I think the truth of it is everyone's just working it out for themselves, and the industry's always changing. So what was right like pre-pandemic is very different now and stuff like that. So yeah,
it's constantly going through changes, isn't it? Cool. So to start us off, we'll start with a bit of an icebreaker, probably more of an iceberg breaker because it's quite a big question. But
iceberg breaker.
why did you choose to get into acting? What sort of led you down this route?
I just wasn't good enough at football. I think that's the honest answer. But and then also from discovering acting, I realised it gave me the things that I used to get from football tenfold. So the community aspect, being with people, working with people. When I played football, I was always a team player, and it's the same in acting. I see it as a team sport, where you collaborate with people. Each project is like another match where you're working towards something. Rehearsals are like training. So all those things really drew me to acting, and really stole my heart and made from 18 to now, made me go, well, I really want to do this as a career.
So then how did you, because obviously you've gone sort of the entrepreneurial kind of route, how did you find yourself getting into the business? What was the sort of route from that interest to then being a professional actor?
I think for me first it was noticing a gap. Like we said, it was really cool doing the conference because we were able to give back and be able to provide that. But I think early on for me it was noticing there wasn't many people that I could go and ask about acting. I didn't know any actors. I didn't. There wasn't any specific, or there wasn't a wealth of success stories from Wolverhampton or people that I had access to, that had even done the training or things like that. So I think for me it was just stumbling along, tripping up, grazing my knee, getting back up, and discovering it for myself. And that formed my way of looking at the industry, of going, well, if there's an obstacle, which might be finances, access to training, access to information, it shouldn't deter you as a if you want to perform like that shouldn't be a prerequisite that you have the finances to do all these things. That there is other ways, but it's just might be a longer route. So I remember when I was like, oh, I might not be able to afford to go to a drama school. Let me just
Yeah.
do as many things as I can and do as much personal research into my craft. So then I'll use these 3 years as if I'm at drama school, but just myself kind of getting as much experiences and hopefully, and at the time, I didn't know that was the right thing to do. It was just that's the only
Yeah.
option I had. And I was like, if it's either do it my own way or nothing, I'll do it my own way. And yeah, it meant that I was able to use those 3 years to work out how I work in the industry, how I fit, what I can provide, and that's been something that I've been able to take into my older years of going, oh, okay, I know what I can offer to this project. Where I think that's something else that a lot of very talented performers haven't learned that savviness of go knowing what they can provide and what
Yeah.
they can't. Also, it's going okay. There's been some projects where I'm like, oh, actually, I think other people will be better because they
Yeah.
give that they bring that character to life or they have that naturally where I'd be acting.
Yeah. Yeah, it's probably something I'll definitely mention later because I think it is a key point that
Yeah.
sometimes a lot of people don't quite get about how the business sort of
Yeah,
works. Yeah, so like with my route, it was very much. I didn't have like well, I did have a bit of sport. I did play when I was very young rugby
Okay, yeah.
for a while.
Yeah, I was gonna say I thought you played rugby at one point.
Yeah, I
I've
was a
heard that.
scrum half,
Yeah, see,
but
there we are.
but yeah. So I always sort of wanted to do acting. It was always my sort of goal. I think from the age of 14, I kind of decided I wanted to go to drama school. So I did all the workshops, open days, watched drama school productions, all of that sort of stuff. And I was lucky to get in sort of on my first year to Alra North in Wigan, the Academy of Live and Recorded Arts. Did a 3-year course there, and that was my route
Yeah, yeah.
in. So kind of the more traditional, formal thing. So I think a good thing to start is probably the general stuff. 3 pros and 3 cons for our different
Yeah,
approaches. I mean, let's start with the positive stuff. What you found as 3 pros for your sort of approach?
yeah. I think the 3 pros are that self-discovery. So you get to discover um, the industry from your perspective and no one else's really. No one's telling you this is how it works. You're kind of discovering it as you go in. So that's one. Another is there's something to be said from just doing it and doing the thing that you love, and it's okay. It's okay that you're not perfect because you're doing it and you're doing what's required, and you have the mindset of getting better each time. Whereas you're not coming out of like say a drama school and expected you have to be great, you have to be this. You just go, listen, I'll do this little bit and maybe that will lead to that, and then people discover what you can do and how good you are instead of coming in with an expectation that you have to meet, which I can imagine is hard. Trying to think of the third pro. Just discovering community. I think that's the biggest thing that I love about it is the more you do it, the more people you meet, and yeah, you expand your network, I suppose, a bit earlier than if you're away training.
Yeah, locked away.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
What about yourself?
Cool. So yeah, for the drama school one, I think one is probably material because obviously I've done the sort of fringe route in my career where, of course, there's loads of opportunities to be in productions and shows. But what you might find is that because of casting,
Yeah,
you're playing very much in your comfort zone, you're in your region, whereas obviously at drama school, you're constantly getting challenges thrown at you. For me, I've always been kind of focused on versatility as a character actor.
Yeah.
So, you're working on some of the best scripts ever written from the classics to modern day and working on TV stuff, film stuff, radio stuff, theatre stuff. So I think the sheer variety of work that you do and characters that you play, if you're really passionate about the craft, that's great. Two is probably kind of similar to one of yours, is the different way in which it helps in network.
Yeah.
Because you've got obviously all your tutors, all the people that you train with, guest speakers, casting directors, agents, things like that. You do leave the 3 years with at least that kind of like ready-made starting point for who you're going to contact to start sort of creating your career. And then the third one, I think, is time. Similar to what you said about like understanding it's a business. I think because of how overwhelming the industry can be, I think having that 3 years to really kind of figure out what sort of creative are you, what are your strengths, what are your weaknesses, in that kind of training ground where you're allowed to fail, and it's not like it's going to be public and things are going to be held against you in that way. I think that can be really valuable. That it can give you a confidence on the other side. That's really good.
100%. It's something that I recommend with it, because I'm not as someone that hasn't done training in that sense, formal training. I'm a big advocate of letting. Like, I don't like to tell people you have to do it like I did, or you have to do it like them. I say I try and be as impartial as possible and say, look, these are the options. These are all the options that I'm aware of. There might be even more, because I think I said it at the creative conference. Everyone I speak to, no one has the same route. Even when it seems like even the people that have gone through the same drama school, things have ended up different. They've had meetings with different people. Some have got agents, some haven't. Some have got into the industry because of someone they know. Someone, like, it's all. There's such a variety that thing I always say is, with drama school, if you want a place where you can go, it's a safe space where you can go, discover your craft, work on it. And I always say, like, I describe drama school as the box, but not in a bad way, where the highs can only be so high. So smashing a performance or getting a meeting with an agent, or it can only be so high, but the lows are still contained, can only be so low. Not doing so well, someone critiquing you, maybe the social stuff not being, but you still have to get up each day and you've still got a class the next day. Where outside of it it's sky high, it's limitless. The highs can be changing your whole family's life, God willing, one day. And the lows can be. I always say, when I started acting, I went, "Oh, doing this, I might be homeless one day." Okay, that's cool.
So, what are the cons then to that approach?
So cons for me are that it goes hand in hand with the pros. It's, yes, finding your own way sounds good, and it does mean you discover it in your own way, but also it means you've got no reference, you've got no one advising you, and as someone, like I said, I'm a team player. I like working with people, so, but when you're forging your own path, there's not always people there to work with, so you're kind of discovering people at different intervals, but not all the time. So not having a reference and no one telling you this is how it's done, that's very difficult. And because there can be periods of time where you're just stuck. You're like, I don't really know what to do. I know I want to do this thing, but I don't know how to. And in every other career or industry, there's usually a how. There's usually like, if you do that, if you get that qualification, you do that, then you can do this, and then you work your way up. Whereas doing what we're doing, you can be amazing, but just not seen in the right way or right space, or not have something for your way. Never be seen and think, oh, I'm not good enough, but it's not that. And I think a lot of people confuse the two. So yeah, that's one. There's no one guiding. I'd say two is that it's very easy for things like self-doubt and all that to creep in when you. I think it links with one where you don't have people to, where you don't have a formula, when there's not a formula how to get somewhere. And say three, there might be gaps. So because you don't have a safe space to kind of work everything out, what if you just thrown into it? Yeah, you're learning as you're going, but there's always that thing of, oh, have I been taught this right, or is there something I don't know about
Yeah.
that kind of um, version of performance? Because there's so many different styles of performing that you can think, oh, well, is there something I don't know about that, or can I just jump into that and work it out, like, and jumping into things and jumping in the deep end as someone that's not a good swimmer isn't very fun
Isn't fun.
as well. It's difficult. So that's another con where sometimes you do just want the easy route of just going in from the shallow end, doing a little doggy paddle, and then working your way up. But sometimes it is just go on getting.
For drama school, I think the first one's the really obvious one that I think probably affects most, which is cost.
Yeah.
Like, I think it's changed since my day. I think I had a lot of support from student finance, but I think now I don't know what support's available. But even beyond tuition, the cost of living kind of situation. You know, I went to Wigan, which is like a lovely northern welcoming town. Like, everything was very affordable. But London, like, I've got people now who are training again in London.
Yeah.
And of course, it's ridiculous the amount they're spending on rent. So when you're doing a full-time course and you don't necessarily have all those hours to work around the course, I don't know how people really make the equation fit. So that's definitely the first one. I think the second one is, you know, it's hard work. You know, like I said, you're doing a full-time course, Monday to Friday, possibly even sometimes Saturday, 8 till 6 every day. Then all the kind of homework and prep you've got to do for the next day. It really does push you, which if you can keep up with that, great. But, you know, it can be challenging. I've seen people go through challenges with it. And then the third one is probably the fact that it is, you know, there's a reason it's called training instead of teaching, in the sense of, like, they're trying to create habits in you. I didn't mind this so much, but I saw people really struggle with that. I think the phrase that sometimes used is break you down to build you back up, which is like, we're going to kind of reset the way that you breathe, the way that you speak, the way that you move, because we want to neutralise it all and then create more positive, like, involuntary habits that you'll have by the end of the 3 years. So, of course, if you are resistant to that kind of pressure, or you're somebody that's sort of very set in your ways, it might be something you clash with, that kind of drama school culture. I think that's definitely a thing. So yeah, I mean, we could talk about the general stuff all day, because of course there's lots of key points that were mentioned on the day. We've just mentioned them here, but I thought it'd be cool, like, to maybe look at our personal journeys and those kind of challenges that we faced, or high points that we faced, in the hope that maybe, you know, it's the experience that matters, isn't it? Everyone, like you said, has a different path, has a different experience. So we'll start with the highs. I want us each to sort of share a moment where, in our development as actors, we felt really proud of ourselves, where we felt like, I'm smashing it, I'm killing it, you know, I'm ready for this industry. Yeah, can you think of something?
It's hard for me because I think highs or lows, I don't really dwell on much. I think I'm a bit broken in that sense. I don't think much. I just plod along, go, yeah, okay. And no, I have this talk with people all the time where I very rarely reflect on what I'm doing or what I've done, and I've got a bad memory as well. So it's even worse, because, like, sometimes Holly will talk to me about projects or things we did with CYT, you know, where it was like hard work or something we achieved, and I'll be like, I don't remember. I'll remember a few things, but yeah, my memory's really bad. And I think it's a skill and something and a detriment that I just live in the moment. So I try and just do what's in front of me, and I don't look too far in the future, too far back. But then that means I don't retain much, because I'm just thinking of what's now. But in reflection, there's a few things, like I said, that tour where I just jumped into it. Yeah, it wasn't the most. It was called Nightlight, and it was a national tour, and I actually didn't get the part first. It was a rehearsed reading of the play first, and I didn't get it. And 6 months later, they called me and said, "Actually, we think you're better for the role. we just went for experience, but after the R&D, we'd like you for the tour. And I did that and just said yeah, and ended up doing a national tour around the country. Went to Germany as well and performed in all these theatres. But that was something that now in reflection I go, that was cool. That was you stepped up to a part that even now would still be a struggle. It wasn't an easy role. It was, and then I think also when I've looked back and gone, oh, I have a bit of stability now, and in what we do, stability
Yeah.
is nothing, and it's not like
Nirvana.
not set, but at the moment I'm filming 2 TV shows that have been commissioned for 3 seasons, and I've been leading all 3 for both of them. So I have that slight bit of stability where I know I've filmed Good Ship Murder
Channel 5.
on Channel 5. Watch it on my 5. I filmed that for at least 3-4 months of the year. I film Go Ed for another 2 months of the year. So it's like half of my year is I'm working, which I know is a privilege, and it's good, and I'm able to work around that stability with stuff with CYT and give back and try and hand stuff down and provide opportunities for people locally. But and then also I do work with the National Youth Theatre still, so I've been doing workshops for them, and also trying to find other work around that stable place. So now I'm walking into rooms going, okay, it's a conversation. It's going, this is what I feel I can offer that project. This is what I can't offer. Or like, so for me and my agent, it's a conversation. It's not like I need that to pay rent, and that I know that's a big achievement in what we do, and it's a big privileged place to be in. That's just that reminds me, oh yeah, you've worked hard over the last 10 years, even though you haven't always realised it. You're always like, I never stayed still. What about you?
Yeah, so I am more of a reflector, but even like you just said, sometimes
you're good
it's
at remembering stuff. You think
I'm a big deep
yourself,
thinker. Like I'm very nostalgic, but even like you said, like every now and then, like a memory will just hit you in the face, and you'll be like, I forgot that even happened. That whole part of my life, or that thing, you know. For me, it would probably be second year at drama school. So it was final term, which is kind of like where everything culminates, because third year is all about getting into the industry, getting an agent, all that sort of stuff. You kind of, the tuition kind of ends, and it's all about like, now it's time to sell yourself as actors. So end of second year, everything's coming at once. It was Shakespeare term, so we do like Shakespeare scene, of which I had to do the balcony scene in Romeo and Juliet, and I was cast as Malvolio in Twelfth Night for the main play. Yeah. But then you're also doing all your acting assessments, context, written work, voice assessments, movement assessments, everything. But then on top of it, I was quite lucky in the sense of one of the actors in the third year, he got a job. He was off filming with the BBC in China. So it was a World War One play, Accrington Pals, and the part was like this young lad who's the son of one of their guys who goes off to fight at the Somme. And they thought of me for it because, of course, I looked quite young. So the head of the school, he kind of pulled me to one side and said, we'd love you to do this. We think you're ready for it. But yeah, you've got to stay on top of all your work. And, you know, it's not in replacement of something, it's on top of everything you're doing. And what that meant was the school was kind of in this little church in Wigan. It was really small and humble. And then the play was rehearsing about a mile away at the mill at the pier. So my days were just running back and forth between slotting into lessons, slotting into rehearsals, doing all that. And I remember this one day that really sort of sticks out to me because it was the read-through day for Twelfth Night. And I was so excited to play Malvolio, so excited to work with that director. She was a fantastic director. But I was meant to be rehearsing a scene for this other play while that was starting, which was gutting because, of course, as you know, like the read-through's the bit that's really exciting. It's where everyone sets out their stall. And I remember this whole thing about, like, doing this scene over at the mill, which I think it was like the character gets abused by his mum, so I'm like bleeding in a bathtub. I'm doing that like high stakes scene there, running across town. They're in the middle of the read through, and I remember it was the scene where Malvolio kind of he kicks off because they're making too much noise and waking everybody up in the house. And I didn't even bother about acclimatise myself. It was like I was in, heard the lines that were being said, grabbed the nearest chair, whacked the script on the table, bang, and I was in for my line, and it was just playing for the whole hour. And that whole project, all the stuff that came up, all the assessments, like I loved that situation of just bouncing from one thing to the next, carrying like 10, 14 different characters in your head, all distinctly different, all with a process. And like we said, that kind of self-doubt that sets in, you know, it's hard to have self-belief in this industry.
Yeah.
But that was definitely a moment where I think I proved my mettle to myself, and I was able to go like, you know, I'm not blagging this. I'm on it. I know exactly what I'm doing. I've done the work. I've done the detail. You know, I'm working hard for this, and it's not just a hobby anymore. It's possible. You know, it's something I can do as a career and bring real value to. So
those are things that in your career you have to go back to those moments and like remember that. And like self-doubt, I always say it's a distraction, and like you don't like other people can know you can do the work, but if you don't know, if you don't believe it, it means when the opportunities come up, then you might not, you're giving it half, where if you go in not with arrogance, not believing it, but with self-confidence, there's a difference. And remembering those moments where, well, if I can do 14 parts and run up from one theatre to another, if you can do that, then going in for one role, really, if you look at just what you're doing physically, it's way easier. But but you have to be able to strip down the prestige of what that role is. So it might be a job at the RSC, it might be lead in a film, it might be that, but you have to go the work.
I see it's like everything else.
My biggest advice to anyone that I work with is that they always treat anything you do the same, because then your brain is used to working in a certain way. So whether I'm working on a CYT play or filming in Malta or Go Ahead in Liverpool, that's on ITVX by the way as well. I have to treat it the same, otherwise it just doesn't work for me. It's like I've got to do it. I can't go, oh well, this is just youth theatre and or that show's bigger than that show, because those are things that it's not your place to decide, and it's important to someone, so you have to give it your all, but you have to remember, oh, I can do this. So you strip away all the prestige of whatever and do the work, and as long as you know you can do the work, then you should walk into every room confident. Because
the beauty is you know what you're capable of, and like you said, the prestige carries a lot of weight in this industry. Sometimes it's like we only care if it's this big thing, but the truth is it's those little achievements that are in a small room with few people, they're the only people who witnessed it. That's still special too, and I think that's why I do a lot of reflecting, because as you know, you hit these dark times in the industry where you're like, nothing's coming up. Am I ever going to act again? Am I ever going to do this again? And you need to be like I do. I watch back things. Sometimes I'm critical and I go, oh, I wish I'm. But it's lovely to look back, isn't it, and go, oh yeah, I did that thing, and
you can. And I always say a thing of sometimes we can't always do what we know we can, but we still can do it. And by that I mean, depending on I'll have it with filming sometimes where I know in the right circumstances I could smash this scene. I could have the flowing right, blah 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 blah, and I can imagine it how the best version of it can be. But on the day, I film on a cruise ship sometimes. It might be rocky. I might feel sick. It might be 7 o'clock in the morning, and so I can't always do the best that I know I can do, even though it could be two hours later that day, after a bit of lunch and the sea's settled or we're ported in, and that version of the scene that I imagined could come true, but
Yeah.
it's not that. It's 7 in the morning, and I have to do it when I'm feeling sick and I haven't eaten anything and da da da. Da. But you have to be okay with that. You
Yeah.
have to be like, it's okay because we're still doing the work and I'm doing it to a certain standard. So it's taking that. I was saying that often being critical of the critical to
Yeah.
yourself, but going, no, I'm still doing it, and like if it
Yeah.
wasn't good enough, we'll work on it and da da da. And it might not be the best I know I can do, but sometimes it's just delivering the product, it's delivering the performance, delivering the show, and then you will have those moments where everything's right and you're feeling good and the climate's right and you are opposite someone that's bringing the best out of
Yeah.
you, and those are things you can't control. You can't control who you're acting with, you can't control who you're working with, you can't control the environments, but you can control just trying the best you can do in that moment. That might not be your best overall, but in that
Yeah.
moment, it's a great thing, and that's one of the ups and downs of the industry. It's that's a brilliant part where you just don't know. Go, you can't plan what we do.
No.
You can't plan acting. You can't plan play. And
Yeah.
that's why they're called plays because you're playing. You can't
Yeah.
plan it. It just happens, and you can rehearse. Like you've done plays where you've done loads of rehearsals, done loads of shows.
Yeah.
I'm sure you couldn't.
Oh, it's
However
always
your
fresh.
end
It's got to be.
performances, you couldn't tell them because you're in a
Yeah.
different venue. You're in a where people are feeling different and people are giving you different things, and yeah,
Yeah, so yeah, it's like you say, it's keeping it alive because that's the whole point of it. If it's not emotional and breathing and living,
yeah.
it won't affect an audience, you know. So yeah, keeping it fresh is always so important. Um, yeah. So now the opposite. What's can you remember a really low moment where like your relationship with acting or the work itself was a struggle for you personally or career
I can't say
wise?
too much because, like I said, like
Mm.
even with the high moments, I can't say I've probably had some great moments that I haven't mentioned, and um, but I think another reason why my memory's so bad is less so for the good moments, but more so for the bad moments. This is just in life. From when I was a kid, if something wasn't good, I didn't like to think about it, and I think it's had a knock on. So even if it's good, I don't think about it. If it's bad, I don't think. But I think especially bad moments, I process it. I try and process it as quick as possible and get it gone, and just go, okay, cool. What's next?
Yeah.
So I know I've had those feelings coming out of auditions and going, that wasn't good, or why didn't I do better, and da da da. Da. But in those moments, I know I can't say specifics, but I know I've had them where I've gone, well, I won't do that again. I'm
Yeah.
gonna be better. I'm gonna be more prepared. I'm gonna work harder. I'm a big believer in if you work hard, you can negate most things, not everything, because sometimes hard work can't account for someone not being very nice or the environment not being good. But and then that also tells you about like, yeah, we all want to work, but is it worth working with not good people? I don't
Yeah.
think so, because a big part of it is working with a nice team. So sometimes that's just a sign of, oh, that wasn't meant for me, because the people there, I wouldn't have worked well with them anyway.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's a bit hard for that. I can't say there's a specific time that things went really bad and I wasn't like I was close to not acting. I've always tried to have a saying, I don't let wins get to my head, but losses get to my heart. Try to stay in the middle.
Yeah.
So not get too like I'm very grateful for the like the TV work or the plays or the I don't know, we've been nominated for a few awards for Go Ahead and it's flattering, and but I don't dwell on that too much or think about that too much. The same with the bad things or not things not going my way, and as we say, that happens more than things go your way. So if I took all that, I say it to all actors. I'm uh, like if you take all that on board, then it's hard.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's very
There's a lot of
difficult
like low points.
if you like. I, I think a big part of acting, the talent is talent and it's there and it's in a lot of places, but a big skill that actors have to have and learn is being able just to take things, process it, and keep it going. Because otherwise, these things that when you're older, you'd be like, why did I spend so much time thinking about that?
Yeah.
Why did that stop me from going on to the next thing? Because I don't know, that director didn't like me, or that producer was rude and told me this. And it's that thing of, if you take away the prestige, it's just a thing that didn't happen.
Yeah.
And that's easier to think about than a high, something that will change your life, or my dream, or da 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 da. Yeah. What about yourself?
So I think, like, obviously there's lots of low points from the career side of things, you know, from time to time. But yeah, for training, I think that there's 2 points I can remember that both have quite a good lesson to them, I think.
Yeah.
The first one is, it was like second term of first year, and it was Mike Leigh project. So it was named after the acclaimed film director.
Yeah.
And the idea of the project was you had to go out into the world, interview somebody, and then use them as the basis for a character in like this big device piece they do
Or how
together.
you can pull things, but like it's sick.
It's
so
mad.
good that you can be like, yeah, that
Yeah,
day,
I remember it
Mike
all,
Lee,
mate.
da da da. I'm like, oh, I can barely remember my name, but that's
See,
what I love. I love
I
having these
just try and track
conversations.
through it all.
Yeah,
But it's yeah, and it didn't go well. Like most of the people in the year failed the project.
yeah.
I don't know really fully why, but I still remember head of the school's comments on the report. It was like, you did not capture the age or weight of the man. Totally unbelievable in the scene with the mistress. Didn't play the stakes. Fail. It was like blunt,
Yeah.
but appropriate. Because then, you know, I had my pity party for a night. Just went, oh, why did that happen? But then, similar to like something you said earlier, like I made a vow to say that's never going to happen again.
Yeah.
The next one, I'm going to prepare a bit more. I'm going to explore as much as I can. And I learned a really important lesson about kind of complacency. That like with a role, there's no like end point. There's no point where it's like, I've done enough now, I can just coast this.
Yeah.
There's always more to discover, more to develop, more to play with another actor. And that really sort of like then lit up my journey through drama school. Everything from that point got really exciting. And then the second one is more like a personal thing, but I think it's important to share, which was that when I was at drama school, my mental health wasn't in a good place.
Yeah.
And to clarify, like, that's not about the school. I think that those issues were there before I went.
Okay.
A lot to sort of figure out. But it was like, you know, I went to drama school when I was 18.
Yeah.
You know, and it was very exciting. It was a great achievement because it was seen as this huge competitive thing that not many people got to do. But, you know, it's easy to forget that at 18, you are still quite young, that you've never lived on your own before. There's so much you haven't experienced about relationships, life, work. And as much as I was doing sort of really well, I remember in the second year, I was doing Crucible.
Yeah.
And I was playing Reverend John Hale.
Okay.
Yeah, and I was very lucky in the sense of I got to play the whole part. Like normally you have to sort of split it with other people on the course. So I got to play the whole thing. Loved it. Loved working with the director. Loved the project. And we had our assessment day where all the heads of department come in, all the rest of the school watch it. That all went well. Got great feedback. It was riding high. It was all good. And then I got home that night and about a totally unrelated thing, I just had this emotional meltdown.
Okay, yeah.
I didn't tell anyone else at the school or my classmates or anything. This would happen from time to time. I'd just have these big, low points where I'd get really upset privately and not share it, which obviously I very much discouraged.
Yeah.
But I think it's where, kind of reflecting back, I realised that, you know, drama school really pushes you physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, and you can do really well, but there could be a cost if you're not looking after yourself in those areas, physically or emotionally. And so I would definitely urge those who are maybe thinking of going to drama school when they're still fairly young or maybe have things going on in their life, that it's just, you know, you might just have to think about looking after yourself a bit more.
It's thinking why as well.
Yeah.
I think if you're someone that wants to go to drama school, it's going, why is it just if it's just cause everyone says you should go there,
Yeah.
maybe that's not the right time. It might not, doesn't mean you shouldn't go. It means it might not be the right time. Maybe work out why you want to go. Because all different drama schools are slightly are more suited to different things. So, and then it's going, well, if you're gonna go and spend that money and da, 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 it's going to the place that you think is best suited for you. But then also, when you're trying to work out why, it's going, if it is for the agent or work or things like that, then maybe that's not a good enough reason to go,
Yeah.
because it is so hard and so difficult. If you want to act, if you want to produce, if you want to direct, if you want to do anything, if you want to be a plumber, know what that entails, because don't just look at the shiny part of it. I'm telling you right down the lens. Don't just look at the shiny part. Don't just look at the brilliant versions of that career. I'm sure there's surgeons that can look at millionaire surgeons that are in LA and choosing what work they're doing. But then there's also surgeons working in war-torn countries that aren't anyway but doing really important work, and it's going. It's knowing that that might be what it entails. You might, if you go in thinking you're just gonna do millionaire LA plastic surgery. I don't know why this is in my head.
No, it's true.
Anyway,
People think of the highs, don't they? They think
but
of fame and
your
fortune.
journey
Yeah.
might lead you to working on the front line and helping people in really war-torn countries. And if you're not willing to do that, maybe that isn't for you.
Yeah.
Even though you can't just be like, oh, I just want to act. I'm going to go back to acting because the surgeon thing was weird. I don't know why that analogy was in my head. But yeah, work out why. Look at yourself. Maybe not to the extreme of me and go, am I willing to be homeless? Yeah. Maybe not that. Maybe not homeless shouldn't be the goal. But are you willing to do the worst version of that craft to the best? And if you are, then aim for the best, of course. I'll never tell people to settle. I'm like, if you're going for a dream, go for it fully. But be willing to do the worst version of that career. And if you're happy with that, then it's right for you.
Yeah. How do you feel that your journey has shaped you as an actor today, and like the way that you work, for instance?
Yeah, that one I've got an answer to. I know everything's very vague. I think my journey, similar to something you said earlier, you like the versatility of acting. You want to be able to go into different spaces, and I think my journey has been going from a zip theatre, like, which was like TIE, kind of doing pantos in schools, and they used to come to my school, so that was like one of my first jobs. Going from that to that national tour play, back to the National Youth Theatre and doing a play with them, whilst doing shows at CYT, then getting a TV gig somewhere. And through that journey, it's made me realise I like the versatility of it. Acting isn't just one thing. It's not just I'm good at the acting. It's not like, you know what I mean? I think some people think, well, I'm a good actor. It's almost like saying I'm good at the acting, and it's like the acting isn't, that's not a thing. Acting is so many different things, and it's like boxing, there's different styles.
Yeah.
And I like that challenge of going, okay, so I think for that, I'll need to improve on this, and I need to improve on that. And then hopefully getting that opportunity. I really learned it on, I did a show with the Globe, I can't remember how many years ago, about 8 years ago now.
Yeah.
And they were doing a season of shows celebrating writers associated with Shakespeare that weren't Shakespeare.
Right,
There's a
yeah.
writer called Lady Mary Roth. It's the one time I remember something that's specific. Usually I'm like, yeah, I did a thing with a thing. But yeah, they did saying that, I can't remember the play's name now. But the writer was Lady Mary Roth. Oh, that's annoying that I don't remember the play. But but that taught me that like I'd never done anything like that. That came from a phone call from someone I did NYT with. That was like, oh, I remember you doing this Shakespeare speech. You should come. I did a bit of Hamlet at NYT. Literally just a little bit of a soliloquy from
Yeah.
Hamlet, and he remembered that. So like 5 years later, called me and was like, "Oh, I'm assistant directing on this show. I think you should come in." It was barely an audition. I just met in the library of the Globe, read a bit really badly, and he was like, "Yeah, come along." But it really taught me like that. I loved that challenge of like on one of the rehearsal, I think every actor in that cast was from RADA, like a RADA graduate, apart from me, and I hadn't been anywhere, and I was young and I could barely read the text. It was really dense. It was probably more dense than a lot of Shakespeare's, where just the way it was written taught me a very big skill, and it was something that could have discouraged me, but it was day one. I could genuinely barely read it. Like I was reading it like a I'd never read anything in my life because the text was so difficult and the rhythms and and these people were sight reading it like it was nothing. And I remember just going back and working out how I could learn it, because also
Yeah.
it was like a 2 week period to try and learn the play. It wasn't a massive rehearsal period. It might have been less than 2 weeks, but I made my own way of just writing the first letter of each thing in a notebook, and so I kind of learn it that way.
Yeah.
Um, but that I did the show. And a lot of the reviews were about my character and about how I delivered it, and I was like, wow, I was just trying to survive. But in that,
Yeah.
I found like through that scrappiness and jumping in the deep end and trying to swim against, not against, but with these people that had trained at RADA and done all this stuff. And God, I was just literally lad from Wolverhampton staying on my cousin's sofa while I did this play. I want to be able to find myself in loads of different places. I don't just want to be where I'm comfortable. Like I don't just want to do the good ship murders, the go eds, which I love and it is comfortable. I want to go, oh, this is difficult. I want to go into spaces and
Yeah.
go, oh, okay, I'm gonna have to work this out. I'm gonna have to put a bit of work into this. I can't just learn it and kind of come up with my character that I've played for the last 3 years. I have to really work something out to make this good. I suppose that's why I like the directing as well, because it's problem
Yeah.
solving. What about yourself?
Oh, I mean, I think you can definitely see the sort of fingerprint of drama school
Yeah,
in me. I think even if it's like the involuntary stuff, like how I use my voice and physicality and that kind of thing,
yeah.
like there's little habits that are still there, even sort of 10 years down the line. But I think the other way is like I've still got that raw thing that I had before it, which is that how do I emotionally respond to a script? How do I key into these characters? That's still there. That's untainted.
Yeah.
But what I've got from them is like there's a detail.
Yeah.
There's a richness to how I kind of mine the text and find little bits of subtext or little beats, little moments, and how can what are all the different options available to me rather than maybe just where I lean.
Yeah.
You know, it taught me that kind of method for not always just following my opinion, but exploring all the options and finding what maybe I wouldn't notice at a first glance as an opportunity in the text. So yeah, I'd say it's probably in that area. Like that's how it sort of made me into the actor I am today. It's like it's allowed me to really push further into that versatile character actor region. That
It's proper skill to interrogate the text properly and not just go for what like you said at first glance, oh, it reads as this. It's going actually look at it again. What's the most interesting choice? And then being brave enough to deliver that. But and then also being brave enough to go, now that coupled with another actor or does that work? Oh no, actually, I need to do it like so. It's like knowing all the options are in front of you, but and then almost having it as ammo. like ready, like
Yeah, to try out on a different night, or just to create. I really like creating sort of really detailed psychological
yeah,
assessments of like who the characters are that I play, because that motivates more rather than maybe like different walks, different voices, all that kind of stuff. That the outside in approach, I'm very inside out in the sense of I like to figure out all sort of facets of that person's life, personality, so that you can create these little surprising turns in scenes where if they've got a particular insecurity around, I don't know, infidelity or whatever, and then something happens in the scene that obviously triggers that, then that gives you a reason for why they then spin off all of a sudden and start having a go at everybody. To create those like volatile things. So it's still raw, it's still impulsive, it's still very emotional, but there's just like a process that you can go through there to figure out, okay, let's make sure I don't miss anything here, as a opportunity to really, really make this interesting.
Yeah, I like that.
You know.
I like that a lot.
So yeah, and then the final question I think is there something you would do differently now if you had the chance?
No, I don't think so. I think everyone's to suggest I could do something differently would be to suggest that like this was my way in, and this is really hard. I'm in a privileged position, and if I did something differently, I think I probably wouldn't be in the position I am. There might be something I could have done differently to make me be in a better position. I don't know, but that's something I can't know or understand. But yeah, I think if I was to say yeah, I would do this different, it would mean that my advice to people when I say just work out your way into this industry or into your craft, it would water that down. It would suggest that no, there's loads of ways you can do it, but I always do think there's just a way you can do it which is different to everyone else. So no, there's no other way. Um, there's nothing I'd do different, but there's advice that I give to myself and other people of just keep on track of your craft and what you're doing, and that might be things that you always look at yourself first before looking out. Like, don't try not to be like, oh, it's not happening because of them or because of that. There's always something we can do, and that might be just not giving as much attention to the people that are trying to block you and not encourage you. But then also, after looking at yourself and making sure you're ready, looking at the industry and where it's moving to, because you can work really hard, but if you're working really hard in the wrong direction, or in the direction that used to be the way, but things have shifted that way, if you're not going that way, then you won't get the fruits of your hard work, and it's almost like work smart as well as work hard.
Yeah.
Because I am a big advocate of work really hard, but try and always take that time to just evaluate so you can work hard smartly, because I see it can be really soul destroying for a lot of actors that I think are brilliant and work really hard, but necessarily don't know what direction, so they're just working really hard and not
plugging away, but
not finding like where they can fit and be appreciated, because we should be. If you're working hard, you should be appreciated, not entitled to it. No one's entitled to anything. You might deserve something, but you're not entitled to it. But it's just looking at different routes into the industry. That's mainly what I'm trying to say.
I mean, mine's quite similar. I mean, I loved my journey. In some ways, I wouldn't want to change anything because then maybe the magic wouldn't happen.
Yeah.
But if there was anything, it would be maybe to be more savvy, like we mentioned sort of at the start. It would be that my attitude, I think, because I was young, was to approach the industry kind of like, look at my acting, look at all these parts I can play, look at my skill in this or my skill in this, and not so much. we spoke about it at drama school, but I don't think I quite grasped that business sense of, the industry loves your talent, but what they want to know is, where do I put you? Where are you going to solve our problem? Something we don't have at the moment that we need you to fill. What are the parts you play better than anybody else? And so, like, when choosing showcase pieces or writing emails, I wish I'd thought about that maybe a bit more, to be, like you say, a bit clever. To go, here's my skill, but by the way, I'd be great doing this, or I think there's an opportunity, I'd love to help you with this. To just really make the most of what can be a big jump of moving into the industry, where, it's
still young, like
yeah.
you say, like you were young, you are young.
Yeah.
Like it's good to work this stuff out, because like that's the beauty of what we're doing, is like there's no age limit, and
No.
it's like always let the talent lead. So it's great, keep that side of going, look, I can do this, I can do that, da da da. But then it's just going, look, I can do all that, but I see you just need this. I'll do that, but just know I can do this.
Yeah, finding little smart ways. And you're right about the time limit thing. I was told constantly by people at drama school, my first agent, they were like, you're good, but I don't think you're going to work till you're 30.
Okay.
Now, of course, I fought against that. I spent my 20s doing all that, but I know I understand what they were saying now about age brackets and casting types. And it's like, everyone, you might have the talent, but there's certain peaks maybe that will come that are out of your control, that are about how you look at a particular time, or certain, all sorts of things, all sorts of factors. So you're absolutely right. Like, people always fear, don't they, that like you've got to do it now. But the truth is, you could take 10 years out of the business and then come back, and no one's going to stop you. No one's going to go, yeah, you missed your shot. You can try it then if that's a more fruitful time for you, or it works better for your personal life or family life. So absolutely. So to close, to train or not to train, what are your final thoughts?
My final thoughts are to not train, and to train to do what's best for yourself. Because I think that's it. I help people get into drama school, that even though I didn't go to drama school, and I've seen some brilliant things, and like I've helped people go the other way and help them find agents and stuff like that. So I think the main thing is to do what's best for you and work that out. And whether that is to train or not to train, or anything in between, kind of train, do a bit of training and quit. I don't know. Because there's some people there's success stories of people that trained and dropped out and discovered it worked for them. That's okay. That's not a bad thing. There's people that just were like, no, I'm not going to train. There's people that were like, I have to train. But there's examples of all those kinds of people in the industry. So my answer is, do what's best for yourself, but work out what that is.
Yeah, mine's very similar. I'm inclined to say train, because I think it's an incredible experience. You'll get to do so much if that excites you. But while I'm an advocate for drama school, I had a great time. I know people who didn't, who found it really challenging personally, socially, emotionally. There were other challenges, maybe about the sort of politics of the situation. So, it's not for everybody. I think listen to other graduates. There's loads of videos online. Go to workshops, watch productions, see if it is something that's right for you. But if it's not, like you say, you do your own path. Because when I was going, I think there was a feeling that, like, if you wanted to get into the industry, you had to train. You weren't going to get theatre auditions. That doesn't really exist anymore. The doors are kind of wide open. So, there's no right choice or wrong choice. There's just your path. And we've had, like we've shared, we've had very different paths. It's worked out for us. It'll wind, you'll take different paths. Some will lead to good things, some will lead to bad things, but you learn from them all. And really, it's you figuring out what feels right for you and what you enjoy. Because there's no point just slogging away at something because you're told to, but you don't really enjoy it or find it fulfilling. So yeah, absolutely. I think hopefully we've delivered a lot of points over this, but yeah, it's down to you. Find the thing that works for you.
That's it.
Absolutely.
And get on the Get In podcast, like and subscribe and all that jazz.
Yeah, yeah. I was about to do all that sort of stuff. Yeah, send comments in because it is it is nice to hear sort of like, you know, we've got a program of episodes planned, but if there's anything you want us to cover or work on, we'd love to hear, because it's always nice to hear what do you want to hear about. So absolutely. But yes, thank you very much, Zak.
Thank you, matey.
Absolute pleasure as always. Thank you. See you next time.
Great.